Intro. The Forgotten Stoic Habits. We live in a world that praises convenience, speed, and endless comfort. From the moment we wake up, we're told that life should be easier, faster, and more entertaining. But here's the truth. In chasing comfort, we've erased the very habits that once made human beings strong, wise, and deeply resilient. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, didn't build their philosophy in times of peace and comfort. They forged it in hardship, in chaos, in the daily struggle to remain calm when the world refused to be kind. And they relied on practices, simple, repeatable, deeply human practices, that modern life has quietly pushed aside. Think about it. When was the last time you sat with silence instead of reaching for noise? When did you choose discomfort on purpose instead of avoiding it at all costs? When did you write just to understand your own mind rather than to post something online? These habits aren't just ancient curiosities. They are tools, timeless tools, for surviving and thriving in a world that constantly tries to overwhelm us. And that's what we're diving into today. 6 Forgotten Stoic Habits. 6 ways of living that modern society tried to erase, but that you desperately need if you want a life of clarity, strength, and meaning. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. This is where we keep alive the wisdom of the Stoics and the greatest minds of history, so you can apply it daily, in your own life. Hit that button. Join us, and let's get started. 1. Morning reflection before action. The Stoics believed that the first battle of the day is not with the world, it's with yourself. That's why Marcus Aurelius began each morning not by rushing into duty or distraction, but by sitting quietly and reflecting. In his meditations, he reminded himself, "Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He wasn't predicting misery, he was preparing his mind. Contrast that with our mornings today. Most of us wake up, grab the phone, and immediately drown in emails, notifications, and other people's agendas. Before our feet even touch the floor, we've already surrendered our peace. Morning reflection is the antidote. It's 5 or 10 minutes where you set your intentions before the chaos of the day. You ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? What battles am I likely to face? How can I respond with patience instead of anger? With clarity instead of confusion? This habit transforms your mornings from reaction to preparation. Instead of being dragged by circumstances, you become anchored. Instead of reacting to noise, you respond from a place of calm strength. Marcus knew the world wouldn't change, but he also knew that if he prepared his mind, the world couldn't break him. And the same is true for us. The way you spend your first moments each morning decides the quality of every moment that follows. 2. Voluntary discomfort. The Stoics understood a truth we've almost completely forgotten. Comfort makes us soft. Seneca advised his students to deliberately practice poverty, sleeping on a hard bed, wearing coarse clothes, eating the simplest meals, not because he wanted them to suffer, but because he wanted them to remember that luxury is fragile, and strength is built in discomfort. Today, we do the opposite. We avoid hunger with endless snacks, avoid cold with perfect heating, avoid effort with machines that do everything for us. And yet, the more comfort we gain, the more fragile we become. A small inconvenience feels like a crisis. A minor discomfort feels unbearable. Voluntary discomfort flips the script. By choosing hardship in small doses, you train resilience. Take a cold shower, skip a meal, walk instead of drive, sleep without the extra pillow. Each act whispers to your mind, "See? You thought you needed this, but you didn't. This isn't punishment, it's freedom." When you practice discomfort, you stop fearing it. You stop being owned by comfort. And when real hardship comes, as it always does, you won't crumble. You'll recognize it, breathe through it, and stand tall. Seneca's challenge was simple. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest fare and the coarsest dress, so that it is a question. Is this what I feared? If you can answer yes, you've already won. 3. Practicing silence. The Stoics treated silence not as emptiness, but as power. Epictetus reminded his students, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we may listen twice as much as we speak." In a world filled with arguments, chatter, and constant noise, silence becomes a rare form of strength. Think about how often we rush to speak, defend ourselves, prove a point, fill the air with words. But the Stoics knew that silence disciplines the ego. It teaches you patience, self-control, and the ability to truly hear what others are saying, beyond the words, into their meaning. Today, silence is harder to find than ever. Our phones buzz, our feeds scroll endlessly. Every quiet moment gets interrupted by some notification. But this is why practicing silence matters more now. To sit still, to listen without rushing to respond, to pause before reacting. Each moment of silence sharpens clarity and cuts through the fog of emotion. Practicing silence doesn't mean retreating from life. It means entering it more consciously. It means recognizing that not every thought deserves to be spoken, and not every battle requires your words. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. The Stoics discovered that silence isn't passive, it's active strength. And when you learn to wield it, your words, when finally spoken, carry more weight, more meaning, and more truth. 4. Negative visualization. The Stoics practiced something that sounds uncomfortable at first: imagining loss before it happens. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the people he loved, the comforts he enjoyed, even life itself, could be gone tomorrow. Seneca advised, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." This was not pessimism, it was gratitude in its sharpest form. By visualizing the absence of what you hold dear, you feel its value more intensely. Your morning coffee, your partner's laugh, your child's hug, suddenly they're not ordinary, but extraordinary. Modern culture tells us to avoid these thoughts. We're told to stay positive, to never think of loss, But that denial makes us fragile. When hardship strikes, we're shocked, broken, unprepared. The Stoics flipped this. They rehearsed loss so that when life inevitably delivered it, they were steady, not shattered. Negative visualization doesn't darken your days, it brightens them. When you remind yourself, this might be the last time, you taste the moment more fully. You stop taking life for granted. You hold people closer. You speak kinder words. And when loss does come, you'll grieve, but you won't be destroyed. Because you already lived with the awareness that everything you love is a gift on loan, not a possession. That awareness doesn't make life bitter. It makes it sweet beyond measure. 5. Writing for self-mastery. For the Stoics, writing was not a luxury, it was survival. Marcus Aurelius never intended his meditations to be read by anyone. They were his private notes, reminders, and corrections, written at night and in the early hours of the morning. Each sentence was a dialogue with himself. This is where you failed today. This is how you can do better tomorrow. Writing gave the Stoics a mirror to their minds. It slowed down their racing thoughts and forced them to confront the truth. Seneca filled letters with reflections on life and death, discipline and desire. Epictetus urged his students to write down what they learned so it would sink deeper into their souls. In our world of instant messages and quick reactions, the habit of journaling feels outdated. But it may be more urgent now than ever. Writing is not for others, it's for you. It's a way to untangle confusion, to expose your fears, to turn vague intentions into concrete commitments. When you write daily, you train clarity. You discover patterns in your thinking, weaknesses in your character, and opportunities for growth. More importantly, you transform philosophy from abstract ideas into lived practice. A page a day is enough. You don't need to be eloquent. You just need to be honest. The Stoics remind us, the pen is not merely an instrument of expression. It is a tool of self-mastery. 6. Daily contemplation of death. Memento mori. The Stoics carried a reminder that most people today would rather avoid. Memento mori, remember. You will die. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." To the modern ear, this sounds dark, but to the Stoics, it was the key to living fully. Death wasn't something to fear, it was the ultimate perspective. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on trivial things. The petty arguments, the endless scrolling, the chasing of approval. Suddenly they lose their grip. What rises to the surface are the essentials: love, courage, integrity, gratitude. Seneca compared life to a play. The length doesn't matter, he said, only how well you perform your role. Contemplating death doesn't shorten life, it deepens it. Each morning becomes a gift. Each conversation becomes sacred. Each decision carries weight. Modern culture hides death behind closed doors. We fear aging. We mask loss. We pretend time is abundant. But denial doesn't protect us, it weakens us. The Stoics looked death in the eye every day, not with despair, but with clarity. And here's the paradox. By facing death, you don't become morbid, you become alive. You cherish the people around you. You stop delaying what matters. You realize that the countdown is not a curse. It's the reason to live with urgency, depth, and purpose. Outro. Returning to strength. The habits we've explored: reflection, discomfort, silence, visualization, writing, and remembering death, are not relics of a distant past. They are anchors, waiting for us to reclaim them in a world that constantly pulls us off balance. Modern life tried to erase them because they demand effort, presence, and honesty. But precisely because they're hard, they make us strong. You don't have to master all 6 at once. Start with 1. Sit in silence tomorrow morning. Journal your thoughts tonight. Take a cold shower. Or simply pause and imagine how fragile this moment truly is. Each small act is a return to strength, a rebellion against the softness of convenience. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the length of our lives, we can control their depth. And when you choose to practice even one of these habits, you are refusing to be a passive passenger. You are choosing to live awake, alive, and unshaken. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it. Leave a comment about which Stoic habit you want to begin with. I'd love to read your thoughts. And don't forget to like this video so more people can discover these timeless practices. Most importantly, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. This is where we keep ancient wisdom alive, where we translate Stoic philosophy into daily action. Join our community, and together, let's rebuild the strength that modern life tried to erase.